Hooded visorbearer. The hooded visorbearer, Augastes lumachella, is a small species of hummingbird in the family Trochilidae. Endemic to the East Brazilian state of Bahia, it is found only at higher altitudes in the Chapada Diamantina region. The species is sexually dimorphic. The male is an iridescent bronzy-green overall, with black on his crown and the sides of his head. His forehead and throat are a glittering green shading to bluish-green at the lower edge and narrowly bordered by black. The female is bronzer, with a green crown and brown sides to her head. Her throat is less colorful than the male's, and she lacks iridescence on her forehead. Both sexes have crimson tails and a narrow white breastband, the male with a brilliantly iridescent golden-orange spot in the center, at the lower edge of his gorget. It resides in the Campo Rupestre, an arid, high-elevation area characterized by rocky outcrops, poor soils, open habitats, and harsh climatic conditions. There, it feeds primarily on nectar, though it also takes insects. Its breeding ecology remains largely undescribed, though it is known to build its nest from cactus spines. The International Union for Conservation of Nature rates it as a near-threatened species, primarily because of the relatively small size of its range. It is threatened by habitat loss, brought about primarily by unregulated mining and the conversion of the Campo to pastureland and human habitation. Climate change is projected to cause a major contraction of its range, perhaps by as much as 60%. Taxonomy and systematics. René Verlessen first described the hooded visorbearer for science in 1838, using a specimen collected in Bahia, Brazil. He named it Ornismia lumachella. 5 years later, Lesson moved it and 4 other species to his newly created genus Amazales. John Good moved it again in 1849, when he created the genus Augastes for this species, and the hyacinth visorbearer, another East Brazilian endemic. There are no subspecies. DNA studies have shown that the 2 Augastes hummingbirds are sister species, and that the genus is most closely related to Jeffrey's daggerbill. The genus name Augastes comes directly from the ancient Greek Augastes, meaning radiant or light giver. The species name lumachella is an Italian word for fire marble, a dark limestone that contains fossilized shells. It is a diminutive of the word for snail lumacha. Although the species name is sometimes written as lumachellus rather than lumachella, this is incorrect because it is an Italian word rather than a Latinized one. It is considered to be invariable. Description: the hooded visorbearer is a small hummingbird measuring 8.3 10 cm 3.33.9 in length and weighing 44.8 g 0.14 0.17 oz. Its short, straight bill is black. The species is moderately sexually dimorphic. The male is an iridescent bronzy green color on the upper parts and underparts. His forehead and throat are an iridescent golden green, with a narrow border of bluish green at the lower edge of the throat. The sides and crown of his head are black, and a thin line of black borders his gorget. He has a narrow white breast band, with a golden-orange spot in the center and purplish-brown wings. His tail is a deep bronzy crimson. The female's coloring is more subdued. She is more bronzy on her upper parts and underparts, and her head is green instead of black. She has a gray face and the sides of her head are brown rather than black. The green on her throat is less colorful and iridescent than that of the males, with a stronger border of bluish-green at the lower edge. The color does not extend to her forehead. Immature birds are bronzy green above and brown below, with a white throat speckled with green. Their tails are a coppery bronze above and crimson below, less brilliantly colored than those of adults. The combination of head pattern and tail color is said to make this species unmistakable within its small natural range. Voice: the song of the hooded visorbearer is described as nasal and dry. Transcribed as true twi true z, its short phrases are typically repeated more than 3 times in a row. Range and habitat: the hooded visorbearer is endemic to eastern Brazil. Found only in the Chapada Diamantina region of Bahia. It is restricted to Campo rupestre, a high-elevation ecoregion that is characterized by poor soils, open vegetation, rocky outcrops, and harsh climatic conditions. It occurs at elevations ranging from 900 to 2,000 and 3,000 to 6,600 ft, and is considered to be one of South America's obligate grassland birds. It is found in rocky, semi-arid areas with cactus and low shrubs on the summits of mountains and mesas. Behavior. Feeding. Like all hummingbirds, the hooded visorbearer feeds primarily on nectar, though it will also take insects. It typically forages low, often less than 1 ft3 and from the ground. It is known to visit Viricia flowers early in the day, while the flowers, which are primarily bat-pollinated, still hold some residual nectar. Breeding. Little is known of the breeding ecology of the hooded visorbearer. It builds its nest from cactus spines, usually about a meter just over 3 feet off the ground. Conservation and threats. For several decades in the 20th century, the species was thought to have gone extinct. Then, in 1961, Brazilian naturalist Augusto Rosti led an expedition to an area where they had been collected in the past and rediscovered them. The International Union for Conservation of Nature now rates the hooded visorbearer as a near-threatened species, based primarily on its relatively small range. The decline of suitable habitat in both size and quality is ongoing, primarily as a result of uncontrolled fires and climate change. Projections suggest that the visorbearer's range may shrink by as much as 90% by 2060 due to the effects of climate change. The mining of gold, diamonds, quartz, and manganese within its range detrimentally affects habitat, as does the conversion of natural areas to animal pasturage and human habitation. Although its population has not been quantified, its numbers are thought to be declining. Relationship with humans. The hooded visorbearer is considered to be among the handful of birds in the Chapada Diamantina that prove particularly attractive to bird watchers. Trails have been created in the Chapada Diamantina National Park to enable ecotourists to enter the habitat in which they are found.